Well, Paul, episode 1 of the Buzz is, I guess, starting at this dirty truck stop that we're at in the RV.
Yeah, we're in the middle of our grind, and it took us a while to get this out, but I'm glad we finally sat down, found the time.
Pumped. Finally had a little bit of time to sit down, at least. We're headed to Waco right now for the Waco Charity Open. But today, just to kick off the podcast, I figured we'd talk about something that I hear a lot of people talk about. I see it all over the place in forums, see it all over Reddit, all sorts of places. Form changes. So, Paul, you are someone who does a lot of lessons, and you are also somebody who has undergone a major form change. I figured we'd talk a little bit about what goes into making a form change. Not necessarily the mechanics behind it, but where your head should be at, why you change your form, and why changing your form can be sometimes detrimental.
Yeah, so there can be many reasons for changing the form. But let's go over the basic ones. Injury is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Plateauing is a big one, and that's one that I'll get into with like my own experience. And then criticism, right?
Yeah.
Which is also a big one.
Mm-hmm.
People doing something a certain way and other people not liking it.
It's true.
And then them being like, well, I have to change it then. I have to be like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But the one that I'm very personal with is the plateau. 2011 to 2012, I felt like I got to a level where my shot making ability had kind of like reached its peak. And I couldn't get any better as far as like my backhand went. Like I could go to the field and I could practice for hours, and the certain things that I wanted to fix and to get better at, it just seemed like no matter how much time I put in, I came to the conclusion that my form just wouldn't allow me to get to that next level.
So your potential was being limited.
Mm-hmm.
And you felt like you'd maxed out all you could max out.
Right. So at that time, I think I was probably practicing more than almost anybody. Right? And so I'd go to the field and I'd go there with like a goal for the week or something. And I just wouldn't get the goal. You know, I would go there and over and over and over and over, time after time after time. The next session would be the same as the first.
Real quick, what for people who just started playing disc golf recently, what were you doing back then? What was the big change?
I was going from, well, what do you mean? Like
there was a very noticeable change that you went.
Oh, sure. So I used to call it the pro hop, right?
To where Nate Heinold special.
Exactly. So I used to hop off my back foot into my front foot and then throw backhands. So I did not have a next step. I call it the pro hop. It was a crow hop, or a bunch of people. I basically hopped and I threw.
Were there any YouTube videos that any newer players who haven't seen it can watch?
Yeah, anything before 2000 or in 2012 or before has me doing that.
Okay, just for the viewers or the listeners' pleasure.
Completely different from what I'm doing. Pretty goofy, but yeah. So I was practicing, and then it just wouldn't get any better, and so I just basically clean slated it and decided to switch to the X step for my own reasons, not for reasons that other people, told me. But basically, the reasoning was because I couldn't get better, and I wanted to get better. And then the shots that I wasn't good at were like slower speed shots. So when I would hop, I wasn't able to really slow down. I had one speed. And I wanted to gain more speeds, and I just couldn't do it.
Yeah, because gravity, you can't down-tempo gravity.
Yeah, it totally screwed me over, gravity. Every time.
So stupid.
And so I went through it, and one of the hardest things I've ever done, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, it's one, but it's crazy that you. And for people who have been watching YouTube and like been watching disc golf for a while, since like the Disc Golf Planet days back in the day, or like, what is it, Disc Golf TV, Timmy Gill, something like that. You've, in my mind, because I've been playing disc golf for a long time too, and I've been watching disc golf for a long time, you've undergone probably the most like outrageous form change, going from the stutter step, Nate Heinold special to the X step. Is there anybody else that you know of that's done anything like that?
I'm not sure. I mean, there's definitely people who change their form all the time,
like subtly.
But I'm not sure if there was. At that time, I had gotten to as high as 3rd ranked in the world. So with the hop, I was really good back then, right? Yeah. And then to switch that to try to be better, you know, like that was a big time. I don't know if I've seen somebody who already kind of had it going. Yeah. Do that.
Yeah, exactly, and then maintain it. Right. But like, so that goes into actually a really interesting topic that I'd like to bleed into, because stutter step, and like you said, you can't down tempo. 3rd in the world, and the field was obviously pretty strong back then still. So like, this is a really important thing, because, you know, I'm one of the few people, me and Dana Vici, maybe a few other people, teach lessons out in Illinois. I have players that say, I want form changes. And it's funny because that can only get you so far. And I think the way you go about changing your form and the mindset you need to have when going into that is huge. Because someone like you that has technically, you know, bad footwork was able to maintain a huge, you know, level of success. And then you have players that never think about form that are still amazing. So like, I guess what I want to talk about is like, a lot of times I will do a lesson with a player who like is physically talented and can shape shots and do all the right stuff. So changing your form is, to a lot of people, this like, I guess if you're a Harry Potter fan, it's the golden, like the snitch, you know, like once I catch this, once I do this, then everything's gonna be better. Right. Then I'll be super sick, crushing you in tournaments no time.
So easy.
Yeah, so easy.
Disc golf so easy.
500-foot laser beam, no problem. But like, it's interesting in the sense like, there's so many things that goes into changing your form, and I think the first one is be extremely wary of the advice you're getting from people and from forums. There's a lot of like forums like, hey guys, here's a video of me, critique me, and they're like, oh, you know,
you have 43 different comments being like, well,
yeah, this is bad, you suck, you're terrible.
Yeah, keep your hand close to your body. No, lift your hand like a rodeo, you know, rider.
Reference like, this obscure like form video, which in theory is right, but you can get lost in the it's almost like the Matrix of all these little tiny things and these drills that you think that once you get this drill down, everything's going to be sick.
And it can ruin you. It can completely ruin you. I remember I had a success when I did it early, and that's what kept me going. Otherwise, I basically had a tournament to where I'd been doing it for 2 months. And I said, I had already qualified for the USDGC, right? And I went into the USDGC and I said, if I cash at the USDGC with this new form, I'll keep it. And if I don't, I'll go back to my old form. So I was at a point where it was, again, where I was questioning it. Like, oh my gosh, like, what did I do? Yeah. You know, I was, you know, not playing as well, obviously, as I was before.
Of course.
Right away. And I wasn't seeing a lot of successes with it. You know, I would throw certain shots where I'd be like, yes, that's what I'm looking for. And I gained a little bit of control with some things, but I completely lost scoring control. Like, I wasn't scoring anywhere.
Of course.
And luckily, that USDGC, I think I got 17th place. And I was like, I'm keeping it then. Yeah. You know, so I had this, I even had a breaking point to where if I wouldn't have cashed, which would have been easy, you know, I would have totally been hopping till this day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I mean, and that's not everyone's gonna have a 17th place finish at USDGC to make you feel like you're
on the right
track. Your form change is doing the right thing, and I think it's something that I see with even people that I know changing their form, which is just, I think this is kind of a universal thing, and I was telling you on the drive here, you have this idea of what you need to do form-wise, and again, we're not going to go into the mechanics of it because this podcast is more theoretical,
sure,
talking about big picture ideas. Maybe eventually we'll dig into some details, but you have this idea of form that you want to have,
mm-hmm,
and then you practice. Oh, I think I feel it. But then you get into a tournament. You know, your first B tier, or maybe you play an A tier, or a decent sized tournament after trying to change your form for, I don't know, sometimes it can take a whole season. It took me like two full seasons to change my backhand form, and I'm still changing it. Like, I guess slowly making adjustments. You can get into the mindset of like, oh shoot, now I don't trust my new form, a lot, and now I don't even remember what my old form feels like. You know, the one where I feel like I was, there's a lot of players that I've remembered talking to where like, yeah, when I first started playing, I was just parking every hole and I was just making every putt, and the moment I started carrying, it was just all downhill. So you have this like hybrid of like new form and then bad habits from the old form, and you're trying to like figure it out, and then it, if you're not patient with it.
And that's the key right there, is 100% patience with yourself, because you're 100%, especially if you've already been playing tournaments, if you've already been playing for years, it's hard not to have expectations with just little things, like going up to your home course and being like, oh, I get this hole all the time, and then all of a sudden you do your new form, people are watching, and you're like, oh no, like, I'm lost right now. I don't have this, I don't have that rhythm, that mindset where it's like, oh, just routine. You get lost in all of that stuff, and it becomes so hard, and it's really a fear. You get scared.
No, you get terrified, and there's a couple of things that I always think about is like, number one, like, when you're able to go up and like these people that say like, once I started carrying, I started like being, doing terrible. That's because when you just start, all you're thinking about is, well, I know that this disc does this when I like 2-finger split grip, chuck it, on a sidearm, and it just wobbles to the basket. That's all you're thinking about. But once you taste that good line, or you see a player execute a good line, then you start to think, well, maybe I should do that. Funny thing is, that's weird, and I think a lot of people can take away from this is, when you do change your form, the other hidden element to it is like, if you're doing it correctly, and you're actually, maybe making good contact, getting the disc to the right point of contact or hit point, you're going to get more spin in the disc. It's going to maybe be able, maybe you're going to be able to throw it faster. Your equipment's going to fly different. So when you first start playing disc golf and you're a baseball player, softball player, you're chucking Nuke OS sidearms, whatever, just willy-nilly, wobbly. Once you get better form, or maybe you start learning backhand, that Nuke OS is not going to fly the same.
No.
So you have to adjust your equipment too, and sometimes your equipment can limit you in the process. Especially not necessarily pro player to being a better pro player, starting off as a new player or someone who just started playing tournaments, to then that rapid improvement process, especially if you're an athlete. So it's like another thing where you do have to kind of keep in mind, like, what are people with good form throwing?
Sure.
Yeah,
absolutely. And you hit on a good point there, is there are times in a person's, let's say, disc golf career where you improve so fast.
Yeah.
Especially, like you said, if you're an athlete and you're sports oriented, you can get really good quick, and that's so fun. But then everybody gets to places where it's just like you go dormant, and you have to make decisions on, okay, what do I got to do to get better? And you can get lost. And people get lost there all the time. People just peak, and they don't get any better. Because they're okay, and they always go back, right? They always go back to their old form, and they're like, no, I'm comfortable. It's too comfortable. This is the player that I am. And I'm just going to be good in the woods. I'll cap out at 375.
You know, I'll open my hips early and just kind of throw spinny shots, right?
Right.
There's players that are sick like that.
Yeah, and that comes to personality types and
Yeah.
all kinds of things down the spectrum. Like,
Exactly.
But there are also people, you know, like, you know, we gave our examples.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many times I've seen a good spin putter,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Like top level spin putter.
Yeah.
Try to be a push putter. I've done it, you know, because Seppo, the best example that I can give of a high caliber player who switched and now is the one of the probably top 3 most successful players in the game is Ricky. He used to spin putt when he first came
I remember
on the
that when he
scene.
was an AM player.
Yeah, and he switched and he struggled. Now he's the best putter that anybody's ever seen.
Yeah, dropping
You know?
grenades from like 70 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there are these success stories, but it takes a certain kind of individual as well, and it takes, like we mentioned before, patience. It's all patience. It's all understanding that you're doing it to be better, and you have to maintain that level of patience of being like, okay, everybody said that I was going to get worse.
Yeah.
I
am worse now.
And it's taking a long time of me being worse,
Yeah.
right? And that's so hard to deal with.
Yeah.
That's so hard to deal with, of having a taste of success at whatever level it is, and then having to go backwards.
Yeah.
That's in just life in general, like
Exactly.
jobs or anything like that. Like, you're like, okay, I had this cushy job, and now I open my own business, and it's slow, and what am I doing?
And now I'm a disc golfer, and I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. So yeah, form is a very delicate thing to try to get into, to change, for sure. And I just want to let people know that, like, you have to go in with a goal.
Yeah.
You know? And the goal can't be too high, and then set another goal.
Exactly.
You know, you can't be like, okay, I'm going to, you know, switch from, like I did, the pro hop to the X step, and I'm going to, you know, be good right away. It's impossible.
It's literally impossible. Because that's just learning skills in general. Right? And
It's
like,
impossible.
yeah, and what's interesting, and this is another thing that I've been thinking of, is like, back in the day, courses were shorter. A lot of times, and you probably might know better than I do, World Championships were not played on these massive courses.
No.
Like, I remember watching the 2006 Maple Hill Open. Most of them were par 3s at Maple Hill. There's a lot of short technical par 3s. So, biomechanically speaking, you didn't have to be perfect. That's why you saw a lot of sweet styles back in the day.
Right.
And I can tell when someone's been playing disc golf a long time, because their nose angles are sweet, they're flipping stuff up, but their max distance is maybe 400. So, but now we have people like, you know, like Eagle McMahon or Simon, or people that are starting to figure out the game. Like, we're almost, I would say, close to solving the backhand biomechanically. We're starting to see people where I don't know what else they could do.
Right.
So now we have people that are like, whoa, the mountain is getting higher and higher and higher. So, like, if I want to get to that mountain, which is amazing that we even have a mountain to climb, and, you know, all these production companies are showcasing these players more, like, that's why changing form and everything can be so daunting.
Sure.
And, like, back in the day, it was just like, well, just flip that mid-range up, you know?
It's your own style back then, you know? It was just like...
Yeah.
It was that kind of almost lifestyle as well. Just go out, throw the disc however you want to do it, and it's all good. You know, you'll figure it out. Like, it was more about having fun going out. And now... You know, people want to get good so fast because of all the YouTube, because of all the coverage that we have, and kids are getting so good so fast.
Kids
because
can have idols now.
Yeah,
they can have heroes, you know?
I can't tell you how many times I've been to the course and I see people mimicking absolute Paul McBeth's stroke.
Yeah.
Right? I played this Siege this weekend, and the kid that was tied with me after the first round, he was putting exactly like McBeth.
Yeah.
Identical.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But, like, I think it's amazing that our sport's at that point, but, like, now we have more things to watch.
Yeah.
You know, when I was first playing, I tried mimicking Barry Schultz, but it's crazy because, like, a lot of those guys, and you know, even you watch Juliana Korver and Des Redding, and they are so far into the body English phase, which I call, like, the final phase. Like, you're so good at your release point that you can just start breaking the rules and doing all that stuff. I was trying to mimic Barry when I was first starting to play. Impossible. Impossible. Because, like, that form of his is not sitting there studying biomechanics or, that's 30 years, 20 years of just release point, experimenting, and they had to be more technical back in the day anyway. I hope the game moves back to more of that and like combined with the distance and everything, but now it's like you have to be like physically sound, so like changing form is like it's almost important now. Like it's getting to like golf level almost with the backhand. I don't know if we figured out sidearm quite just yet, but I think we're maybe getting there. But it's something where like you have to do it if you want to be the best. But like if you
the courses are getting bigger too.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it is even people who have been playing for so long. Mm-hmm. Like I have a lot of people that I've given lessons for where they, a couple probably mid 50s to 60-year-old people have come up to me and they're like, I've been playing for 20 years.
Yeah.
But I can't get any more distance, and they're looking for that even now because the courses are getting bigger, like you said.
Yeah.
And maybe they come from a really wooded area and they move to like Arizona and now all the courses, hyzer, big bombs, and all of a sudden they're like, whoa, I can't even compete out here.
It's so windy and I need to be able to accelerate
for them, because they're used to having these other places to play. Mm-hmm. And they want that distance. They want to be able to score and be able to do those things. Yeah. And so even those older players are looking for that form change.
Yeah. No, I mean, absolutely. And like, when I talked earlier about, like, watch where you go for your form advice. Because I think, and like I said at our clinic the other day, disc golf and frisbee in general is still kind of like the banjo of the sports world. Like we still are trying to pull things from other sports, all these different hodgepodge of techniques, and say, the way I teach clinics is all relating it to other sports. Like, oh, it's like hitting a golf ball. It's not like hitting a baseball or a softball. Like, so it's like one of those things where kind of forgot where I was going with that thought, but. You know what I'm saying? Do you kind of get what I'm getting at?
Yeah, so like, be careful.
Oh, yeah, be careful of where you're getting your form stuff from, because there's a lot of misinformation. Like, I played Ultimate in college, and pulling, the kickoff in Ultimate, is taught wrong so much. So much. And there's teams of high-level, ridiculous athletes. Like, Ultimate is turning into, like, the learning curve is, like, if you're not 6 foot... jacked, super good shape, and you throw everywhere in the field, like it's impossible to keep up. And still, I see the people doing the kickoff, the pull, break all sorts of rules of form, right?
Yeah.
So like, and disc golf still kind of has that. So honestly, like if you're listening to this and you are a new player and you want to know where I can get solid form advice, don't be afraid to message a top player. If they don't get back to you, like it's probably because they're traveling all over the place and they're doing clinics, and now the players are becoming more employees than they ever have. Send a bunch of messages out. Go to clinics of the good throwers. Try to pull something from what they say.
There's a lot of good YouTube things from top level players out there right now as well, that have really helped a lot of people. I think. Don't be afraid to go to those things, and like you said, be careful where you get your information from, because
that can throw you into the matrix.
Absolutely.
Of too many little fish, little tiny anchovies when there's so many bigger fish to fry. Right?
Yeah. So honestly, there's good examples of people who have done it and become really good, and there are also examples of people who've gotten 100% lost. I feel like in form changes. Jared Rohn. When I first started playing with him, I remember thinking like form was great. He was an amazing player, and I remember him talking to me about form and things, and he got so, in my opinion, engulfed into that process that he really struggled at the I don't want to say at the end of his career because I don't know what he's doing right now, but I haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah. Well,
right?
What years was he playing? There's a lot of people who might listen to this that have never heard of Jared Roan. He had a really crazy sprint of a touring career.
Oh, he got so good so fast.
What were the, like 2012?
I think it was 2013 to 2015, 16 maybe, something like that.
And sorry to interject, but I think it's funny you mentioned earlier, people make form changes sometimes based on criticism from other people. Jared had this really ridiculous athlete. He was like a college soccer player or something like that. This really long, linear, like, extension that, like, very noticeable. Like, if he was just all black vector, you know, you would know whose throw it was. And I think he got a lot of comments about that. And I think, you know, people like that kind of have it worked into their head. You know, Eric Oakley also got a lot of criticism for his form as well, you know, and it's like, it throws you into the whole, like, well, shoot, should I?
Am I doing it right?
Yeah.
You know, and I can admit, when I was doing my hop, I got so much criticism from top level players.
Yeah.
You know, telling me, like, hey, you're not going to be good enough, you know, and early on in my career.
Yeah. And
luckily, you know, I'm not the type of person that I'm going to take that to heart, but there are different people that definitely could.
Yeah, no,
you know?
I know, and back to Jared, like, I met him towards the end of his career, but I met him during, like, the big year, and we became friends. He stayed at my place for Ledgestone, I think it was, like, pre-Eureka Ledgestone. He played great, got, like, second in the event, like, no one's ever heard of the kid. And then the next year he came and visited me in my hometown as he was passing through, stayed at my place again. And he was, you know, after all that time touring, I think he toured alone most of the time, so you're left with your thoughts like crazy. You have 1 or 2 bad tournaments, you're driving. What was that?
I believe he actually toured with Macbeth for a little bit. Yeah, and stayed with Macbeth a little bit in Florida. He actually
for his first couple seasons, right?
Yeah, he even, I believe, beat Macbeth at like a big A tier.
Okay.
Back then, like this guy was good.
Oh,
like,
I remember.
Jared was good.
He was sick.
But sorry.
The year that I met him, the last time I saw him, he was alone. And I know for me, you do think about if you have a couple bad tournaments, you have a lot of alone time. But I know that's kind of how he rose to the top, was his association with good players and being able to kind of bounce things off of them. But he came to my hometown and he seemed kind of lost and played my home course, and things were coming out wobbly. And I remember seeing him play, and I was like, what's going on? Like, what's happening? But that's a prime example of, like, you know, if your mindset on changing form is not in a great place, and your relationship with learning, and, you know, you don't have clear goals of why you're changing the form, that can be detrimental, absolutely. You'll be stuck in limbo. Like, is my new form good? I can't trust it, and now I can't trust my old form. And, you know, it's like, now you can't be in the body English phase. Now you can't shot shape those next level shot shapes.
Yeah, and and again, using him as an example, I don't think he needed to change anything.
I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah, great footwork, everything the timing was great. The sidearm was amazing.
Insane.
One of the best putters I've ever seen. And
had all the tools right. Roller game was huge.
And that's how he got so good so fast. Like, he didn't need to do all those changes. He didn't need it.
And it was just intuitive. Go in, intuitive, put it under the bucket, make the putt. Like, that's the ideal. Like, after you make the form change, that's the mindset you need to get in. You need to keep grinding and grinding and grinding, and until you feel like that release point is just second nature.
Sure.
And then you can start making those higher level decisions because you don't have to think about your body.
Yeah.
So, like,
I would love to see him play again.
I would love to see him play. I miss that kid. I mean, it was cool to see a new face on tour, like, coming up, like, popping off big finishes. Like, I think he got, like,
he had like a kind of a surfer swag too. Yeah. Like, he was just really low key and, like, mellow on the course and kind of fiery at the same time.
Super ran
cool. It was
putts
cool.
He had no business running.
Yeah, it was
super
really
aggressive
cool.
roller game. But yeah, it's like, I think that's good. And as we kind of wind down time wise, I think it's like a good kind of lesson to take away from this is, like, if you are going to change your form, it's a commitment. You don't get to go half in, because then that's exactly what's going to happen. You're going to be half in either way.
Yep.
it has to be a process of like, either for me, it's an ongoing process. And I'm not adding things to my throw, I'm taking things away. I'm trying to simplify so my body doesn't have to guess. And like you said earlier, I want less stress on my upper body, less work so my shoulder can stay healthy. Sure. But like, it's a commitment. Yeah. And ask the right people. Ask people you trust. Ask people that the community has trusted. And that will get you where you want to go a lot quicker.
For sure.
Any closing thoughts as we kind of...
No, just I look forward to our next one, actually. This was fun, getting to chat a little bit and get these things out there. I feel like there's a lot of stuff that people, you know, don't really talk about.
Yeah.
You know, and it's important to discuss it and learn from it and things like that. Mm-hmm. So whatever our next topic is, I'm excited, and I appreciate whoever does listen to it. We appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely, and be on the lookout soon for a Patreon page. We have a bunch of cool ideas for anyone that's choosing to support us, even with $1 per episode. A lot of extra content, maybe some live Q&As, things like that. So be on the lookout for an announcement for that page. But yeah, we will catch you in, what do you think, a couple weeks?
Yeah, probably maybe a week, 2 weeks, something like that, depending on our schedule and things like that. And in the comments below, maybe give us a couple topics if you guys want us to discuss or something like that. That would be awesome to see what you guys want to hear from us. And we'll dive right into it, man.
Yeah, we're here. I mean, we're here to spark discussions. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't really have a closing statement or like a catchphrase. So, see ya. Later. Bye. Bye. See ya.
Bye.
Okay.